Hi, I'm Brian, and today I'm going to be talking about accurately setting your goals for your cycling training and the importance of why, it's day one stuff that you don't want to get wrong. As usual though, thank you for tuning in. If you're on my YouTube channel, everything that I talk about that has a reference point, I'm going to leave in the description. If you're on my website, again, the blog this is attached to is going to have any links that you want to any other resources, other blogs or studies or whatever it is that I'm talking about. It's an interesting one. I'm going to start by talking about something that you may have seen my other video about. It's accurately gauging your commitment for whatever your goals are. Now these two are very important. They kind of go in tandem, but they're both really big. Really big subjects, really good parts of cycling, the training, and that's why they kind of need to have separate blogs, separate videos. But the thing about the commitment, right, is that the amount that you're going to be able to accurately or realistically sacrifice on your pursuit of cycling greatness. So if your goal is so big that you're not going to be able to slip up at all, you're probably setting yourself up for a failure. So here's where we talk again in this about what actually is realistic and how that's going to play out in long term, because it's better to drop your expectations slightly, even if it's just short term, so that you can not fail. Ultimately, that's a big part of my job as a coach, is to make sure that my clients, especially the new ones that come to me, have accurately set that. And that's not to say you shouldn't dream big or have big expectations of yourself. Sometimes it just might not be something that you can achieve within the next 9 months, 12 months or whatever. Sometimes it might be part of your 5 to 8 year plan. So I'm going to take you through some examples of all of this and make sure that it makes total sense. So I just touched on it a little bit there. I love to make sure that all my clients, especially the new ones, they have a long-term plan. I really think that everybody, shouldn't be looking at your cycling goals in the short term, even the medium term. So it should be much longer than a year, more like 5 to 8 years. And you might not be at a point in your life where that's realistic, but that's absolutely fine. If it's a little bit shorter, it's great. But what we're going to do by doing this is have a much bigger structure and much bigger idea of the direction to take it in. So I'm going to take an extreme. I coach quite a lot of ultra endurance athletes, like Mark Beaumont, Guy Stableford, Matt Seward, who have run some amazing stuff, including at this time, they're training for Race Across America, which is probably one of the hardest races in the world. 3,000 miles going over mountains, going through the desert. It's really brutal. You have to do a lot of work, and that's a big challenge. So if you've not, it's not something that most people can say, oh, I'm going to do that this year. Right? And that's just my point for this example. For you, it might not be that. Maybe you want to do Le Jog. I'm going to use Le Jog as part of this example, but maybe for you, that big thing is that you want to ride the length of the UK. And that's cool. Maybe actually you're super new to cycling. You just want to ride a century. Again, that's awesome. You just need to look at this about actually, can you do it in this year? Is it something you need to have a bit more time for? If you can do it within a year, great. What would you do after that? Is it a double century? Would you do something like a transcontinental race? Transatlantic way? All of these big events. It doesn't even have to be that. We could talk about racing as well. If you're a Cat 4, Cat 5, being elite level, Cat 1 in the first year of you doing that's probably not realistic. You've got to be something special to be able to do that. So maybe your first year goal is actually just to go up 1 or 2 categories. Who knows? I mean, the thing is, having that bigger plan is going to make sure you have more direction and purpose around what you're training. So again, I talk about that dream big. I really believe that we should dream big. I absolutely, and fundamental, it's part of human nature to want something that might be out of reach. And I do kind of like the saying that aim for the moon, and even if you miss the moon, you're going to land around the stars. That's really cool, but I think we have to have that expectation, that realistic expectation around that. I think that if you're a 30, 40-year-old athlete that's just starting in cycling, for you to dream about being at the Olympics is awesome, but honestly, you're probably not going to make it. I'm not going to say no for sure, But I would be very surprised if I had anyone come to me, you know, or heard a story about a 40-year-old cyclist that just started entering the Olympics. And I'm sure you agree with me on that. So, you know, that's a super extreme, but, you know, everybody's got their own dreams. And I don't think you should stop doing that. I think you should just be realistic about that. And, you know, maybe that is that total 8-year goal, you know, even if you have other goals that go in between. So now I'm going to talk about the short term right now. So short term for me would be, you know, this 9 to 12 months. It's what you're going to do next. Now, prioritizing your events is really important here. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but you probably have got more than one thing you want to do in the year. And that main event is almost certainly, if you were looking at the bigger picture, a stepping stone towards that, you know, that bigger goal. So we'll go back to Race Across America. If you're super new to cycling, maybe you've done a century, but you've done no back-to-back stuff. Maybe a realistic short-term goal for you is to do Le Jog. That's a great challenge for you to be able to do. You've got 9 months to train for it. It's not unrealistic at all. And it sets you up for doing Race Across America, maybe the next year or the year after, something like that. So I always think that your short-term goals should be a progressing point for your long-term. And you know, in that manner, you're always kind of reaching, you're always going to have high motivation, you're always going to know your next steps. But, you know, we talk about A, B, and C goals. Your C goals are, you know, the ones that you're doing, you know, for training. It's like a bit of fun. It's like your club sportive or whatever like that. Your B is something that, you know, is a bit more important, but you wouldn't sacrifice for your A goals. And your A, you know, 2 or 3 a year is ideal. No more than that. You know, you're gonna have something that is really your training is designed about. And that's a brief look at the prioritization of short-term goals. As I say, if you want more information on that, check out my other blogs or videos on that. So finally, the last little nugget of this is what I like to call process goals. You can say process goals if you want to. I kind of have a loose tongue with this, and basically these are super small, like on a micro scale, about what you need to do in order to reach your goals. So let's just say your Gran Fondo. You want to do a Gran Fondo. Maybe it's got like 4,000 meters, 12,000 feet of elevation. It's 100 miles. You know, it's a mass participation event of 10,000 people. You know, it might be hot. You know, just all these examples. You know, there's already in that, I've named loads of demands of the event. So for a start, you need to be capable of riding a bike for that duration. You know, that could be for some people 8 or more hours. So you need to be able to have the endurance, the basic endurance to be able to do that. So if you've only ever ridden a bike for like an hour or two, you've got a lot of work to do. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of work there. And similarly, like it's not, you have to think about flexibility on that. You know, like being able to ride a bike is great for that time, but actually, you know, you have to be comfortable too. You don't want to be stopping like every 30 minutes towards the end because you're not comfortable. So having a flexibility, which could be made up of core strength and a good bike fit, is going to be really important there. But there's loads of other things that you could factor in. Like with my clients, I love to look at them holistically as a complete athlete. So we might be talking about looking at their nutrition, you know, their strength and conditioning, everything like that. And all of these little areas, you can set some process goals for. You know, so strength and conditioning. You know, it's going to complement your cycling. It's going to also potentially help you become less injury prone. And if you time it right and you periodize it around your training, actually you could get a significant strength and power increase as well. You know, a testing for that might look something as simple as standing jump. You know, either vertically or horizontally, and that's a great way to, you know, make sure that you are achieving those process goals. Because as you can imagine, you know, everything else, like especially with a power meter, it's really easy to gauge that progression. But when we start talking about stuff like flexibility, you know, or, you know, strength, you know, you do need to have that measure of that. And that's what I love working with my clients. A lot of them, you know, some of them aren't too involved in this, but I do it with all of them. And I love to kind of like set little challenges and watch as they improve towards these certain things. Nutrition's another great one, right? I mean, we don't even need to talk about actually how you fuel your body. If you don't know, I've got a great video on exactly how you should fuel for a Gran Fondo Sportive. But let's just talk a little bit about, you know, even just eating on the bike, right? So most people that are new to cycling, I mean, if you've been cycling for a long time, you might not remember this, but there's a lot of you know, it's quite daunting, right? To, you know, first of all, take your hands off the bars if you're that new. Second of all, you know, reach into your back pocket, your jersey pocket, pull out a bar or gel, open it up without, you know, dropping litter, because we definitely don't want to be doing that. and then eat. Drinking, some people, when we first start, it can be quite difficult to even drink on the bike. So there's a great process goal there, is that actually, I want my clients to be going out and practicing eating and drinking on the bike. Again, I talked about that mass participation. If you've never ridden in a group and you're going to go and ride with 10,000 other people, you're going to it's going to be a nightmare for you. It's going to be really challenging and really quite difficult. And it's going to just take away a lot of the fun of the event. So, here's again, what I like to call a complete cyclist. And, I always try and make sure all my clients become that. And that's that holistic nature around training. So, in a nutshell, that's all of it. There's lots of other, resources around this to dig into. I could go on for hours around this, but I like to keep these videos, a bit shorter. So like I said at the beginning, check out whether you're on YouTube or on my website. Everything else that I've referenced is going to be in there. And lastly, of course, if you've enjoyed this or not, let me know. Leave me a comment on YouTube, send me a message via the website. Let me know if there's further questions or you want me to expand on any of this, and make sure you do share it, right? Just it means a lot to me when people come to me and they say, hey, look, I really enjoyed this blog. My buddy shared it with me, and stuff like that. And then, of course, lastly, if all of this, if you're suddenly realizing that you probably need to work with a coach, 15-minute consultations with me are completely free, and I love to chat with people. So fill out the form on my website, and we'll set that up. Whether or not you want to continue going on working with me in a longer setting is up to you. That has to be a right fit, and sometimes it's just not. But I've worked with so many great coaches over my career. So, if it's not right for us, I'll be able to recommend someone else. So definitely reach out, even if it's just to say, hey, I loved your video or not, and let me know if there's any other questions. Thanks again for watching. I'm Pav, and have an awesome day.